The seven lords were forced to fight again after only 500 epochs of recovery. Even though several of them had not fully healed because the power of a lord was extremely difficult to expel once it penetrated an ancestor's body. More than 70 primordial ancestors launched another attack against only 7 lords. The lords possessed primordial level Dao, representing the highest level of power, and some of their techniques were unavoidable, striking their targets regardless of defenses and continuing to injure the ancestors after being weakened. The primordial ancestors had become desperate because they had lost several ancestors in previous battles against the Cultivator camp. They wanted to destroy the Cultivator camp completely by conquering all territories and source worlds, eliminating every environment capable of producing future Cultivator geniuses. The lords understood that as long as countless source worlds continued to exist, new talents could eventually emerge, increasing their number from 7 to even more. If the innate primordial life camp conquered every source world, those worlds would become food for them, and they could periodically exterminate all life inside, preventing any future successors. Although the 7 lords were only one powerful force within the infinite primordial space and could not overturn the innate primordial life camp alone, they still departed together under the leadership of Starlight Lord to intercept the advancing ancestors despite their exhaustion. Yuan, the first ancestor of the Cultivator camp, deeply regretted that the younger generation remained too weak and showed no signs of producing another lord. Every destroyed world group felt like a personal loss to him. He desperately hoped for new lords to emerge. So enormous resources had been invested into half-primordial cultivators who had mastered 2 Daos. But no promising results had appeared. Luo Feng had remained in seclusion for more than 5 billion epochs and comprehended 43 world-level primordial bloodlines. An achievement only 5 fusion Dao cultivators had accomplished throughout history. However, before Starlight Lord's era, the land of origin possessed far fewer world-level primordial bloodlines, and Yuan still believed Luo Feng's accomplishments were insufficient to become a lord. After another 3 billion epochs, Luo Feng completed his examination of the remains of 31 ancestors. Within the quiet room, he observed 31 enormous secret pattern diagrams reconstructed with the assistance of the land of origin. During those billions of epochs, his understanding of the mind-consciousness system, physical body system, and the other 5 major systems had grown deeper. Although none had experienced a qualitative breakthrough, he found that the secret patterns within the ancestors lacked a dominant core and were instead widely scattered. If life secret patterns occupied about half of the whole structure and destruction secret patterns about nearly 1/3, they could naturally become the central foundation while other secret patterns merely assisted, creating a beautiful and orderly structure. Instead, the secret patterns of the deceased ancestors were fragmented. The strongest among them, the red flame snake ancestor, contained approximately 31% flame secret patterns, 19% life secret patterns, 12% space secret patterns, 11% time secret patterns, 9% material secret patterns, with the remainder divided among many others. This scattered distribution was typical across all 31 ancestors. From his previous studies of low-level primordial, high-level primordial, and world-level primordial creatures, Luo Feng had concluded that the greater the proportion of a single secret pattern, the stronger the corresponding power at the same level. This principle applied equally to high-level primordial creatures such as Heavenly Fire Shadow, Ghost Prison Disaster Beast, and 9-headed Chaos Beast, as well as world-level primordial beings such as Star Sea Demon Lord and Life and Death Pupil Beast. The lords followed the same principle because each had comprehended a single primordial Dao. Starlight Lord mastered the primordial spacetime path. Golden Lord mastered the primordial destruction path. And Fusion Dao itself was also a Dao. Luo Feng realized that his own life and death Dao belonged to the same category. Unlike the lords, who specialized in a single Dao, the ancestors developed many different bloodline potentials simultaneously, combining dozens of secret patterns into a complete structure capable of reaching the highest level of power. The reconstructed secret patterns created by the land of origin differed from the original primordial bloodlines but still possessed an estimated similarity of about 78%. Although the secret patterns appeared scattered, they integrated perfectly into a unified whole, revealing why reaching ancestor level required such extraordinary ability. Later, in the land of origin, Luo Feng emerged from seclusion and sat atop a tall building while Morosa attended him. Morosa had become the uncrowned ruler of the land of origin, with even the two ancient countries respecting his authority. Yet he remained happiest serving Luo Feng. Luo Feng praised Morosa for managing the land of origin well, while Morosa proudly regarded serving his master as his greatest honor. Luo Feng looked across the world and recognized that the true crisis came from outside. If the innate primordial life camp invaded deeply enough and the Dark World group fell, the creatures of the land of origin would have no means of resistance. Opening his biomimetic destruction eye, now far more powerful than before and supported by his immense spiritual will, Luo Feng observed the entire source world and even what lay beyond it. He carefully examined his home source world, clearly perceiving the traces of its rules. The 9 Tao's were perfectly integrated into a harmonious system that governed the entire source world. At its center lay the origin, the source of the 9 Tao's, the foundation of the source world's rules, and the ultimate source of its power. As long as the origin remained intact, even a destroyed source world could be reborn. But if the origin disappeared, the source world would cease to exist forever. The origin was precisely what the innate primordial life coveted most because consuming it offered world-level primordial beings a faint chance to break through to ancestor level. While contemplating the origin and recalling the reconstructed secret patterns of the 31 ancestors that had occupied his thoughts for billions of epochs, Luo Feng suddenly connected the scattered combinations of Tao secret patterns with the perfect integration of the 9 Tao's that formed the origin. At that moment, enlightenment struck. He finally understood the true source of the source world's strength and the real reason every ancestor had been able to reach ancestor level. The layers of confusion disappeared, and he finally saw the path of break laws with force. The road he had sought was now directly beneath his feet. Luo Feng entered a deep state of enlightenment while Morosa silently guarded him, preventing anyone from approaching or disturbing his master. Using the biomimetic destruction eye on his forehead, Luo Feng observed the source world origin while comparing it with the secret pattern maps of the materials from the 31 ancestor corpses. He realized that a world-level primordial life controlling a source world could face a primordial ancestor alone because the source world and a primordial ancestor exist at the same fundamental level. The source world is like an enormous physical body without a soul. And once it gains a master, it acquires a soul powerful enough to rival a primordial ancestor. Luo Feng then understood the true significance of the life core possessed by every innate primordial life, including ancestor-level beings. He had previously believed the life core was merely a fatal weakness because its destruction meant complete death, while cultivators possessed no such vulnerability. However, he now realized that the life core is actually another form of origin and is the true source of the limitless potential of innate primordial life. These beings are born with the origin itself, unlike cultivators who must cultivate toward it. He also understood why bloodline path cultivators require primordial bloodlines. Cultivators must refine high-level primordial bloodlines to become high-level primordial life and world-level primordial bloodlines to become world-level primordial life. Innate primordial lives rarely obtain higher-level bloodlines, although receiving even a single drop of blood from a stronger existence is a great fortune. Even without superior bloodlines, many innate primordial lives naturally grow stronger through ordinary existence, and some even reach the ancestor level simply by consuming source world origin. Luo Feng realized that cultivators had always focused on extracting primordial bloodlines but could never extract a complete ancestor-level bloodline because bloodline is only an outward manifestation. For innate primordial lives, the true foundation is the life core. As the life core evolves, the bloodline naturally evolves as well, causing the visible differences between early-stage Divine Emperor, middle-stage Divine Emperor, and higher realms. The life core is the essence of life, while the bloodline merely reflects the current life level. Cultivators cannot truly utilize the life core and can only make use of the external primordial bloodline. He concluded that innate primordial lives are the favored creations of infinite primordial space because they are born with a life core that continually grows until it reaches a level comparable to the source world origin, allowing them to become ancestors. This revealed the highest mystery of life. Both ancestors and source worlds possess a materialized origin, while lords possess the primordial level Tao as their origin. As long as the Tao exists, the lord cannot perish, making every lord immortal. Luo Feng further understood the distinction between ancestors and lords. The ancestor's origin is their life core, which has a definite weakness. The lord's origin is the Tao itself. Invisible, intangible, impossible to destroy, and therefore immortal. Even so, lords also possess limitations. Ancestors generally have enormous bodies because the material life core stores limitless power, while lords usually have much smaller bodies since their non-material origin limits internal energy storage. If given a choice, ancestors would prefer the lord's immortal nature without the vulnerability of the life core. Reflecting on his own primordial life and death Tao, Luo Feng realized that it emphasized life with destruction serving only as support. Having glimpsed the highest mystery of life, he believed that fully mastering it would allow him to create billions of origins within himself. Unlike the innate life cores of ancestors, he intended to create origins through comprehension of the Tao. Just as countless heavenly spaces could be opened within the body, billions of origins could also be formed. He sought to eliminate the weakness of any single origin by possessing countless origins while simultaneously using them to accumulate vast amounts of energy and support an incomparably powerful body. Only a Tao that completely understood the essence of life could accomplish this. If a lord mastered the primordial life Tao, that being would possess the largest, most resilient, and hardest to destroy body in all infinite primordial space. Luo Feng believed his own primordial life and death Tao would naturally lean toward the life aspect because of its foundation. Back in the quiet room on Primordial Island, Luo Feng continued examining the endless secret pattern map formed from the 31 ancestor materials. Through the eye of life and death, he finally saw the path before him but understood that he had to walk it himself to reach the end and truly grasp the Tao. Although removing the weakness of the origin while preserving its limitless energy storage would be extremely difficult, he recognized this as the direction he had always pursued. He realized that what appeared to be countless scattered secret patterns actually formed one unified whole. He also understood why none of the other 7 lords could discover this path. Whether they specialized in destruction, thunder, fluctuation, or other Taos, none possessed sufficient mastery over life. And the origin represented the highest mystery of life itself. Without profound accumulation and extraordinary comprehension in this field, it was impossible to perceive this truth. Luo Feng had already established the foundation of the half-primordial life and death Tao. Comprehended more than 50 million low-level primordial bloodlines, more than 320,000 high-level primordial bloodlines, studied more than 2,000 world-level primordial bloodlines, and researched materials from 31 ancestor corpses. Combined with his exceptional comprehension, this finally allowed him to glimpse the path toward becoming a lord. Luo Feng also realized why every ancestor naturally possessed at least 10% comprehension of life's mysteries. Since the life core itself was primarily formed from the mysteries of life, following the life path offered hope of exploring the origin, whereas emphasizing destruction would make breaking the laws through force even more difficult. He reflected that breaking the laws by force also required luck. Although comprehending the half-primordial life and death Tao had taken him less than 10,000 eras and had not felt overly difficult, merely discovering the path beyond it already made him feel that luck would become essential. He concluded that his future primordial life and death Tao would contain 6 systems instead of 5. Besides the mind-consciousness system, life system, destruction system, primordial force system, and physical body system, it would now include the origin system, which would become the central foundation. He continued studying the secret patterns of the 31 ancestor materials to understand how the origin was formed and integrated. Since his future Tao would unite life and destruction, he could not simply imitate the ancestors but instead had to understand the underlying essence. Viewing the same secret patterns from the perspective of the origin system gave Luo Feng entirely new insights. The origin system within him resembled a seed drawing nourishment from the 31 ancestors and steadily growing stronger. He devoted an even longer period to meticulous research, repeatedly studying every material, forgetting the passage of time while his understanding and the origin system steadily matured. Eventually, Luo Feng stopped because he had become thoroughly familiar with every material from the 31 ancestors. Although he had not yet created the primordial life and death Tao, the 6 systems had already naturally integrated in his mind, forming a vague outline of the complete Tao. He then turned his attention back to primordial bloodlines. While he had fully studied the low-level and high-level primordial bloodlines, He had only comprehended 43 of the 2,729 world-level primordial bloodlines. After spending more than 10 billion eras researching the ancestor materials, he wanted to see how much he could now understand from the remaining world-level primordial bloodlines. He selected one previously uncomprehended world-level primordial bloodline along with its supporting materials. After studying it for less than a day, he discovered an important secret. He realized that even at the world-level primordial stage, the internal secret patterns had already begun constructing an origin. However, this origin remained incomplete. Only after accumulating sufficient mastery in the origin system could he recognize this hidden truth. In contrast, the complete origin found within ancestor-level beings was fully formed and comparable to the source world origin. At the land of origin, inside Yuan's quiet cave mansion, Yuan sat cross-legged like a pillar supporting the infinite primordial space. Countless great Daos manifested physically around him, appearing as divine dragons, firebirds, radiant mist, and billions of universes forming across his body. Reports constantly arrived about the Cultivator camp's losses, including the fall of the Feng 7 line, the destruction of the Changchu origin world after its origin was devoured, and the Ice Peak camp invading the Chunwei world group, destroying a main battle avatar and conquering 12 world groups. As the first lord of the Cultivator camp, Yuan oversaw the entire territory and made decisions for most important affairs. While only the greatest matters required discussion among all 7 lords, calmly processing endless information, Yuan issued commands while realizing that the Cultivator camp was completely suppressed by the innate primordial life camp and that many other powerful factions were taking advantage of the situation to seize their territory and resources. Since every force with a seat in the land of eternity was formidable, and the 7 lords were fully occupied resisting the innate primordial life camp, they had no strength to drive away the opportunistic undying beings. Yuan lamented that the Cultivator camp had too few lords, while the innate primordial life camp possessed more than 100 ancestors, giving them overwhelming strength. Among the countless reports, Yuan noticed that Luo Feng had comprehended the 97th world-level primordial bloodline. This attracted his attention because only 2 fusion Dao cultivators in history, Lord Nai Gu and Starlight Lord, had comprehended more than 100 world-level primordial bloodlines before escaping the braided cage. Nai Gu had mastered 397 bloodlines, while Starlight Lord had mastered 512, although both lived in an era when fewer than half of today's bloodlines had been collected. Yuan therefore hoped Luo Feng might become the third. Inside a cave mansion operating under a million-fold time acceleration, Luo Feng continued comprehending bloodlines at astonishing speed. His total quickly reached 100, then 159, then 231. Yuan initially watched casually while handling other affairs, but Luo Feng's progress soon became his highest priority. In only one era, Luo Feng's comprehension had risen from 43 to 231 bloodlines. Even considering the time acceleration, such progress was astonishing because mastering 200 bloodlines within a million eras would already be exceptionally fast. Yuan chose not to inform the other 6 lords immediately because their 7 main battle avatars were locked in battle against 71 ancestor-level opponents. The enemy relied on overwhelming numbers and experience to destroy a lord's main battle avatar, while the 7 lords focused on defense and searched for opportunities to kill weaker ancestors. Such battles commonly lasted more than 1,000 eras. Luo Feng continued advancing, reaching 300, 400, then 513 world-level primordial bloodlines, surpassing both Nai Gu and Starlight Lord to become the greatest cultivator in the Cultivator camp before escaping the braided cage. Yuan was thrilled, not because Luo Feng broke the historical record, but because of his unimaginable speed. Luo Feng encountered almost no obstacles while comprehending each bloodline. His total soon climbed to 600, 800, and finally 1,000 bloodlines in less than 10 eras, equivalent to fewer than 10 million eras inside the accelerated cave mansion. Yuan realized Luo Feng must have grasped the fundamental essence shared by all the world-level primordial bloodlines and had already touched the highest level of power. He immediately informed the other 6 lords that the Cultivator camp was likely about to gain a new lord and instructed everyone to continue delaying the ancestors as much as possible. The 7 lords then gathered through their avatars at the land of origin. Jin, Wulin, Ming Huang, Nai Gu, Starlight, Mo Man, and Yuan were all excited because the cultivator camp had been heavily suppressed for many eras. While other factions exploited their weakness. They even feared that their entire territory might eventually fall, destroying the foundation needed to nurture future cultivators and causing the extinction of countless members of the cultivator camp. The six lords were astonished to learn that Luo Feng had already comprehended more than 1,000 world-level primordial bloodlines. Mo Man pointed out that Luo Feng had cultivated for only about 1,500 eras, or only 1.5 billion eras of actual secluded cultivation. Starlight Lord compared this with his own experience, explaining that using the power-breaking technique had required about 12 billion eras of real time before he mastered the primordial-level space-time Dao. Jin urged Starlight Lord to observe Luo Feng's future again. Previously, Starlight had examined more than 30 million possible futures for Luo Feng, with only 9 leading to lordhood. Upon observing again, Starlight was shocked to discover that countless future timelines had already collapsed and merged into a single future. Luo Feng's path now had only one outcome: successfully using the power-breaking technique to break laws with force. Among the more than 30 million futures previously observed, Luo Feng had succeeded with the technique in over 20 million possibilities. While the failed timelines were still unfolding, the six lords were astonished because the rapid collapse and unification of future possibilities meant reality itself was becoming fixed and unavoidable. Ming Huang concluded that Luo Feng must already have mastered the highest level of secrets, leaving only the integration of every mystery into a complete primordial level Dao. Wulan was amazed by Luo Feng's comprehension, recalling that he himself had required 50 trillion eras after becoming the master of the source world before reaching lord level. Starlight Lord further explained that Luo Feng's converging future was also transforming the future of the entire cultivator camp. Because of this, he decided to establish a powerful formation around Luo Feng's cave mansion, drawing upon the entire land of origin to further increase its time acceleration. He also proposed changing the overall war strategy to one of delay, with the sole objective of buying enough time for Luo Feng to completely master the power-breaking technique. The other six lords immediately agreed, believing that Luo Feng's breakthrough into a new lord would bring a powerful new ally and potentially reverse the entire war. The 71 ancestors of the innate primordial life camp and the 7 cultivator lords fought a terrifying battle within the Bo Shuan world cluster. During the battle, the Starlight Lord secretly reduced the energy of his main battle avatar to 70%. Every lord had a limited energy reserve that had to be divided among all avatars. In life and death battles, a combat avatar could hold almost all of the energy while the remaining avatars shared only a tiny portion. Although Starlight Lord's combat strength declined, his mastery of space-time allowed him to cooperate with the other lords and focus on delaying the enemy instead of defeating them. Meanwhile, a massive world-level primordial life reached an ownerless source world and quietly infiltrated it. Since ownerless source worlds followed their own natural rules, even godly kings could not interfere with such infiltration. The creatures inside the source world sensed an overwhelming world-level primordial power descending like dark clouds before the entire world was instantly annihilated. Every living being, every land, every river, every layer of space-time was completely destroyed. The primordial life then began absorbing the source world's origin. Although destroying the world took only a single thought, absorbing its immense origin would require approximately 120 eras because the source world's origin was unimaginably vast. At that moment, a black-robed avatar of the Starlight Lord suddenly descended. The world-level primordial life was instantly overwhelmed with fear because Starlight Lord was the most feared lord among all innate primordial lives. After confirming that the source world had already been destroyed, Starlight Lord shattered the surrounding space-time with a single thought, destroying both the world-level primordial life and its life core before collecting the corpse. Across countless regions, numerous thoughts of Starlight Lord descended into different areas. Each thought rapidly absorbed energy from multiple layers of space-time to create powerful avatars that swiftly slaughtered one world-level primordial life after another. He chose to kill rather than capture because speed was his priority. Normally, a lord's descending thought possessed almost no combat strength, and even after absorbing primordial force it could only eliminate high-level primordial lives. Killing a perfected world-level primordial life required roughly 1/10,000th of a lord's total energy reserve. and ordinary lords needed about one Earth day to gather that much power after descending remotely. Starlight Lord was different because he had previously established a vast spacetime net across the 3,600 world clusters of the Cultivator territory. Even though the network inside the Bo Xuan world cluster had already been destroyed, he could still draw power from countless past timelines where the complete spacetime net still existed. By absorbing energy from multiple nearby layers of spacetime simultaneously, he could instantly create avatars possessing more than 1/10,000th of his energy reserve. This made him the greatest territorial defender among the Seven Lords. His influence was limited to the 3,600 world clusters and only effective against beings below ancestor level. Yet even Yuan acknowledged that his contribution surpassed every other lord. Before Starlight Lord's birth, there had only been 5 lords, and the Cultivator territory had expanded to merely 800 world clusters while constant warfare still engulfed them. Throughout the Bo Xuan world cluster, countless black-robed avatars descended. They effortlessly captured high-level primordial lives with a wave of the hand because capturing required no more effort than killing them. However, whenever they encountered world-level primordial lives, they chose immediate execution instead of capture to maximize efficiency. The 71 ancestors soon received news of Starlight Lord's actions and became enraged. They realized he had divided his strength while fighting them, lowering his combat ability from the strongest lord to an ordinary lord. Feeling far less threatened, they unleashed their full power and intensified their assault against the 7 Cultivator lords. The 7 lords concentrated entirely on defense. Yuan's great formation perfectly coordinated their combined strength, allowing them to withstand the siege despite the overwhelming numerical disadvantage. Starlight Lord informed his companions that he had already slain more than 3,500 world-level primordial lives along with countless high-level primordial lives. Panic had spread throughout the lower ranks of the innate primordial life camp, slowing their invasion, under the threat of Starlight Lord's relentless slaughter. Conquering a world cluster, which normally required only 1 or 2,000 eras, would now take more than 100 times longer because enemy forces were increasingly fearful, retreating, or sending only weak avatars. Despite this success, the 7 lords remained under immense pressure because Starlight Lord's weakened battle avatar reduced the overall effectiveness of their formation. Wu Lan, whose body was nearly as large as a source world, shielded the other lords from most of the ancestors' attacks. As the master of the primordial material Dao, he possessed the strongest defensive ability among the 7 lords. Each lord contributed unique strengths, and only together could they resist the 71 ancestors. The strategic shift caused the lower-level invasion of the innate primordial life camp to slow dramatically. But the ancestors themselves attacked with even greater ferocity. While cultivating inside his cave mansion in the land of origin, Luo Feng suddenly sensed someone bypassing the cave mansion's formation. His avatar left the quiet room and discovered an ordinary-looking middle-aged man bearing a mark on his forehead. The visitor introduced himself as the Starlight Lord. Luo Feng was shocked and respectfully greeted him. Although Starlight Lord stood before him without emitting any aura, he seemed completely detached from ordinary spacetime. Starlight Lord praised Luo Feng for comprehending more than 1,000 world-level primordial bloodlines and guessed that Luo Feng intended to break laws with force. Luo Feng admitted this and asked for guidance because Starlight Lord had also followed that path. Starlight Lord replied that break laws with force could not truly be taught and that the only advice he could offer was to possess enough patience. Recalling that he himself had endured an extremely long period before succeeding. Seeing Luo Feng's determination, Starlight Lord decided to help by permanently accelerating the flow of time inside the quiet room of Luo Feng's cave mansion. He altered the local spacetime rules, drawing energy from the entire land of origin to sustain the effect indefinitely. The time flow was fixed at 1 billion times normal speed and could neither be increased nor decreased because a constant time ratio created greater stability. Luo Feng gratefully accepted the gift, relieved that even if the land of origin remained at war, he now possessed far more cultivation time. After encouraging Luo Feng to continue working hard, Starlight Lord departed. Inside the quiet room, Luo Feng clearly felt the altered flow of time, where a single breath outside corresponded to an unimaginably long period within. Ignoring the raging war beyond his cave mansion because he knew he could not yet contribute, he continued studying world-level primordial bloodlines according to his original cultivation plan by first researching every material. then comprehending the associated bloodline, and finally comparing them continuously. Eventually, Luo Feng completed a thorough study of the world-level primordial bloodlines. Among the 2,729 compatible world-level primordial bloodlines, he had comprehended 2,010. These bloodlines were divided into the life category, destruction category, and the combined life and death category. He had comprehended about 87% of the life category, about 95% of the combined life and death category, and slightly more than half of the destruction category. Luo Feng realized that his life and death Dao emphasized life, giving him much deeper accumulation in that direction, while his foundation in destruction remained comparatively weaker. Even so, his achievements in destruction were still extraordinary. Among the 995 destruction category bloodlines, he had comprehended 503. Before escaping the braided cage, only Starlight Lord, Nai Jiyu, and Luo Feng had comprehended more than 100 world-level primordial bloodlines, demonstrating the depth of Luo Feng's accomplishments in every category. Eventually, Luo Feng realized that further studying world-level primordial bloodlines and even ancestor-level materials produced only minimal improvements. Understanding that he had nearly exhausted what these materials could teach him, he decided the time had come for the next stage. With unwavering determination, Luo Feng began attempting to create the primordial life and death Dao. Believing that all of his countless years of accumulation had prepared him for this decisive moment, Luo Feng sat cross-legged in the quiet room of his cave mansion. To ensure he was in peak condition before creating a primordial level Dao, he consumed a precious Dan pill, a valuable fruit, and several drinks of expensive wine. The Dan pill and fruit alone were worth 80,000 reward points. Feeling his soul in its best state, he began constructing the primordial life and death Dao based on the prototype he had already envisioned. Opening the eye of life and death on his forehead, he continuously sketched countless secret patterns in the void. Naturally combining the powers of life and destruction, he carefully built the immense secret pattern map over countless days. Although he originally estimated the process would require about 10 eras, many hidden structural problems emerged during construction. Like building an unimaginably vast machine, flaws only became apparent after much of the framework had already been completed, forcing him to stop repeatedly to analyze and repair them. Eventually, after 18 eras, he completed the first version of the primordial life and death Dao secret pattern map. Although the completed map was as vast and profound as an ancestor-level secret pattern map, Luo Feng immediately recognized numerous flaws. Even so, he was satisfied because he had successfully established a complete framework at the same level as an ancestor secret pattern map and had gained valuable experience that would greatly improve future attempts to discover hidden problems that could not be observed directly. Luo Feng used the completed secret pattern map to condense an avatar by drawing upon the endless energy within the cave mansion. The avatar possessed an energy reserve exceeding 150 billion times that of his original body. But it could not perfectly control such tremendous power. Most of the energy had to transform into a blood sea controlled through formations, while only part of the body remained humanoid and covered with cyan scales resembling the Star Tower blood scale. Although the humanoid portion possessed over 50 billion times the energy reserve and greatly surpassed the strength of his original body, the overall control, body structure, and mind consciousness system contained many defects. Luo Feng concluded that the first version had failed because of these numerous flaws. He completely abandoned it and began creating a second version from the beginning. Using the experience gained from his first attempt, Luo Feng became far more cautious while constructing the second secret pattern map, especially at the earliest stages where every later pattern depended upon the foundation. This second construction required 15 eras. When it was completed, the fusion of life and destruction flowed naturally throughout the immense secret pattern map, allowing Luo Feng to faintly sense an attraction toward the highest level of power. The entire structure appeared unified, almost resembling an origin itself, and Luo Feng could no longer identify any obvious flaws simply by examining it. Nevertheless, although he sensed that supreme power was very close, he knew the Dao had still not undergone the qualitative transformation necessary to become a true primordial level Dao. According to the publicly available experiences of the Seven Lords, successfully comprehending a primordial level Dao would immediately elevate one's life level to that of a lord. Since Luo Feng still remained within the braided cage, he knew the second version had also failed despite coming remarkably close. Luo Feng again created an avatar to test the second version. The newly formed clone rapidly condensed while absorbing energy from the cave mansion. Its body was covered by blood-red scales that resembled the Star Tower blood scale by about 80 or 90%. As the clone finished forming, it naturally generated an invisible rule domain capable of suppressing Luo Feng's previous physical body. This clone possessed 19.1 billion times the energy reserve while maintaining perfect control over every part of its power. The mind consciousness system also functioned flawlessly, and the strength of Luo Feng's spiritual will increased dramatically. Reaching the world-level primordial standard, his thought processing speed became several times faster than even his treasure-enhanced original body. The blood-colored scale armor covering the clone could naturally transform into weapons, allowing Luo Feng to form a blade directly from his own body. The blade effortlessly tore through space. Although he still had not escaped the braided cage, Luo Feng judged that this clone already possessed combat strength comparable to a true high-level primordial life form. However, he noticed that the billions of origins he had originally planned to form throughout the body were absent. He realized that, in pursuing perfection without defects, he had weakened both the life and destruction aspects of the Tao. He concluded that these two aspects needed to be strengthened. Luo Feng preserved this second clone because it dramatically increased his thought speed, comprehension, and cultivation efficiency while consuming only some treasures to maintain. Luo Feng then began constructing the third version of the primordial life and death Tao. This version was significantly more complicated and incorporated many more mysteries of life and destruction. Upon completing the secret pattern map, he felt an even stronger resonance with a supreme level of power that seemed almost within reach. The map was as vast and profound as an ancestor-level secret pattern map. Yet he still sensed that one final element was missing. To investigate further, he condensed a third avatar. This new clone required over 30 billion times the energy reserve to form. Inside its body were 3 hidden origins, each capable of storing 100 billion times energy. Its thought processing speed became 10 times faster than that of the second clone. Luo Feng estimated that his spiritual will had reached the standard level of a world-level primordial being. His physical body had become nearly indestructible, with muscles and bones displaying blood-colored scale characteristics. He felt as though his entire body had become an immensely powerful weapon. Luo Feng sensed that if every part of his physical structure completely transformed into blood-colored scales, his body would become truly immortal, matching the Star Tower blood scale in durability, and he would successfully complete the primordial life and death Tao, becoming the 8th Lord with a body capable of annihilating everything. As Luo Feng considered strengthening the destructive aspect further so that his body would become an even more terrifying weapon, he suddenly experienced a revelation. He realized he had been following the wrong path. Because he was an enlightened one without bloodline or memory pollution, he could objectively recognize his own mistakes. He understood that the error had begun with the second version, when he pursued absolute perfection by balancing life and destruction. Continuing to seek flawless balance had caused his body to contain only 3 origins instead of the billions originally planned, while simultaneously forcing his physical structure toward blood-colored scales and emphasizing destruction more and more. Although this path gave him the illusion that he was extremely close to becoming a lord, he realized it could never truly succeed because the very foundation of his half-primordial life and death Tao had always been centered upon life. A foundation that prioritized life could never produce the balanced result of equal life and destruction. The apparent proximity to success was only an illusion. Luo Feng finally understood that his Tao was not the path of balancing life and destruction. Instead, it was the path of pursuing the ultimate extreme of life first.